Welcome back. The founder of the globally celebrated Ladysmith Black Mambazo passed on earlier this week. Although Joseph Shabalala had retired more than 10 years ago, he was still very much part of the group's achievements and South Africa's pride and joy. After all, he helped define our nation's artistic soul. And to pay tribute to Mshengu, Ntate Joseph Shabalala, I'm joined by Bra Sipho Hotsix Mabuse to tell us a bit more about his contemporary and, of course, South Africa's icon. Bra Hotsix, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
And the global outpouring of emotion on the demise of Joseph Shabalala says a lot about the man. I mean, you did, I'm sure, many of your international contacts reached out to you for a comment or two. What has the experience been like?
Yeah, it's been a very difficult week. Probably, it's what seems to be very interesting is that South Africa seems to have been elected to be this country that has to give its most talented people to the celestial artists. I mean, recently we had Johnny Clegg passing on, and now Joseph Shabalala is passing on. And the number of interviews that one would have given is just unbelievable. It's that it shows the level of influence, the level of reverence this man had, globally. And I was privileged in a way to have been part of his life.
And what did you describe as a unique contribution on his part as an individual as well as leader of his group?
One of the things that Joseph had, and I think everybody out there will agree, that his humility. He was one of the most humble musician that one would have ever worked with. And one of the things that Joseph never assumed is your natural response to superstardom. He never assumed that whatever his achievements were part of his makeup. He always
was not a celebrity.
He was not a celebrity. He never assumed any celebratory status. He was always Joseph Shabalala from Ladysmith, Mfana Semnambiti, and the music spoke for itself. I don't even believe that at some stage he had any inclination that the music would become so global that it would elevate him to the status in which everybody today is responding so fondly of him, And he still remains the same guy that that I've known, 45 years ago?
Yeah.
And
it's one other thing that struck me, I was thinking about this conversation that I'm having with you, that besides the music itself, which is what he was respected for, and of course the personality, the humility, is the longevity.
Yes.
The fact that he was able to remain in the game for this long and even grow over that period of time. I mean, normally people come in 5, 6 years, 10 years, and then you tend to wane and disappear. But in his case, it just...
Yeah, well, I think it's the honesty by which he executed his craft, his music, what he believed in. Never were any intentions to say, I'm going into this for a particular period. I'm in there because it's all what I know. It's all what God has given me to do. So irrespective of its ups and downs, it's something that I should stay on course for, which he did. He stayed on course and he continued. And the tendency to believe that people have got to go in there for material developments is what normally would destroy people, because the level of commitment dissipates at some stage. But with Joseph and Ladysmith Black Mambazo, it was, this is who we are, and this is what we know, and this is what we're going to give the rest of the world. If at some stage things don't work out, we're still content.
Well, I mean, you are an elder as well. I mean,
I wish I was.
You are, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you've earned your stripes, and therefore, whatever you say, I pay attention, and many people do. Your friendship,
You just like me, that's all.
Yeah. And working with Dr. Joseph Shabalala, you know, what is your memory of whatever collaborations you may have had? Because he's done a lot of work with different performers across the globe, not only here in South Africa.
Well, you know, unfortunately, Tim, I've never had the chance to work with him, but I was privileged that, you know, we all belong to the same stable, and our interaction was based on the fact that we came from the same record company, Gallo, and, you know, Gallo became a repository of South African music across the board. I mean, we had people like Simon Nkabinde Mashatini, the Mahotela Queens in Ntombi Manje Manje, and later on the Soul Brothers came onto the fore, and later on Lucky Dube came in. So the fact that we're all in that stable made it easier for us to interact.
You were one family.
We were one family. Yeah. It was that family of musicians that interact at different level and different styles. I mean, if you look at what Gallo's, what South African music is all about, or where you'd find it from, you definitely would find it at Gallo. It's a repository of that whole history, of that whole narrative of South African music was.
I have had this conversation with you before, but I did not talk about Ladysmith Black Mambazo as one of the groups or musicians to reference. But even you hear Ladysmith Black Mambazo, you hear South Africa anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's been to me. So from your own perspective, what would you say their contribution is, Ladysmith Black Mambazo, Joseph Shabalala in particular, personally, to brand South Africa, to putting South Africa on the map?
Well, that they were able to globalize, you know, music that otherwise South Africans themselves were not ready to embrace is indicative of the power of, you know, their soul, the power of what Joseph Shabalala and Ladysmith Black Mambazo did. You know, the fact that everywhere in the world you'd go. I mean, I was in Brazil, and I had this Brazilian musician I've never heard of. She had recorded with Ladysmith Black Mambazo, and I thought, wow, that influence. And that way, they were able to profile South Africa such that the international community, in terms of during apartheid, was suddenly interested in other parts of what this country has to offer, besides the music that was there. What else is happening in that country? And then suddenly apartheid was globalized. It may not have been direct activism of Ladysmith Black Mambazo as musicians, but the fact that there were suddenly people who were interested in the whole South African, you know, country.
Yeah.
It became obvious that music had created that profile and branded South Africa for everybody to be interested in the country.
You know, it actually positioned South Africa. I'm almost listening to their harmonies in my head, and words that come to my mind are brotherly love, or friendliness, and peacefulness, and people you can deal with. And I suppose that's why different cultures around the world welcomed and embraced Joseph Shabalala and his music.
I was just about to say that, Tim.
Yes, and I have to end it right here, but I give you a few
I was
seconds.
just about to say that, you know, Ladysmith Black Mambazo and Joseph Shabalala created a space where everybody else now didn't know where to find the music. They came in at the right time. Everybody related to that.
The friendly, peaceful, brotherly face of South Africa, and that's what Joseph Mshengu Shabalala was all about. Sipho Hotsix Mabuse paying tribute to a well-traveled soldier who put in over 60 years of his life into the love of his life, music. And that's all we have for you. Thank you for joining the Modise Network, and we invite you to tune in again next weekend from us. Enjoy the rest of your day.